Welcome to the Hypnotic Healers Podcast, your home for insights and insider knowledge about hypnotic change work. With your hosts, control practitioners and hypnotists, Nicole Mazzucato and Anthony Gitch.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hypnotic Healers. I'm Nicole Mazzucato, and as always, I'm here with my friend and co-host Anthony Gitch, all the way over there. Our usual disclaimer before we get started: neither Anthony nor I are licensed medical professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, or anything like that. So please do not make any changes or alterations to any medications or treatments that you're on based on the conversation you hear here today. Take what you like and leave the rest. And while you're leaving stuff, drop us a message, leave us a like, a love, a heart, a thumbs up, whatever you like. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
You know, I am good. Thank you.
Do you know, I was a guest on a podcast a few weeks ago, and when they introduced me, I was like, hi, welcome.
Hello, this is my show. Oh, no, wait, it's yours. Sorry.
It just fell out of nowhere. I'm so used to being the host.
Hello, let me take over your show. I'm Nicole Mazzucato.
So, fun fact, I reposted this thing the other day that said only 1% of podcasters get past the 21st episode. So we're in the top 1%. We're in the 1% of podcasters that survive.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Apparently 1.8 million podcasts give up after 3 episodes.
Wow. After 3?
Yep.
That's amazing.
I know.
I've never once thought about giving this up.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Well, we're both such good company, you know.
We're here to stay, apparently.
Yeah. We're committed, damn it.
Yeah.
We're bouncy, damn it. We're bouncy.
We're bouncy. If this is the only bit of content I produce in my life, it's there. It's one of the only things I'm completely consistent with. So there we go.
Well, and I'm yay. But yeah, today I think we decided that we're going to have a discussion about intuition.
Yeah, spoiler alert. If you've already seen the name of the episode, there it is. Intuition.
Yeah, yeah, I never thought about that, huh? Well, it's going to be an interesting conversation because first, I want to know, where do you think intuition comes from, and how do you think, is it something that we can develop? Is it something that comes naturally? Is it something that everyone has? Is it a skill that everyone can learn? What do you think about intuition?
Damn, that was like 5 questions.
I know, I sound like a client now, huh? Can you fix all of that, please? In just one setting.
Here's my shopping list.
Right.
Yeah. So, intuition. Yes, I believe that it's something that we all have. I think, we're all born with something. Yeah, we're all born with some sort of knowing, right? It's that kind of, I guess, would you call intuition when a baby kind of naturally looks for its mother's breast to feed? Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. Are we calling that intuition? Are we calling it natural instinct? Maybe that's a different conversation. What's the difference between natural instinct and intuition? But for me, intuition, there's a sense of knowing, right? I believe we are taught out of intuition. We're educated out of our intuition by the don't do that and the don't do this and that's wrong and that can't be right and things like that. And from a very young age, most of us are very much educated out of listening to our inner voice, listening to our gut feelings, told to kind of put them away and forget about those. So yes, I believe we absolutely all as a very kind of blanket term, have access to intuition. And I definitely believe it's something that we can, I don't know if train is the right word, connect with, learn to encourage, develop, evolve, and very much use to our advantage. Where does it come from? I don't know. That could, I don't know that I have the answer to that. I can give you my own view, whether that's, whether there's some, right, whether there's some sort of higher power, whether it comes from a mixture of experience, knowledge, acquired knowledge, experiences that we've had, that kind of visceral feeling, that energetic information that we receive that's completely invisible. I think it's a combination of all of that. It's you're walking past a dark alley or something, and it's that experience and experience knowledge and that gut feeling that's saying, don't go down there. And you're like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not going to go down there. I think that's really what intuition is for me. It's a mixture of those things. What about you? The same 5 questions back at you.
So I can answer it pretty much in one idea. To me, intuition is the voice of God.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I believe, or whatever conceptualized high idea of a higher power one might have, right? Whether that's the universe, spirit, whatever somebody wants to call it. I've always tried to get my nieces to understand and my nephew to understand or believe or just even think about, contemplate the idea that intuition is that voice of God, right? It is like you said, that knowing, that thing that you don't have to, it bubbles up from within. We don't know exactly where that comes from. It could be very much like you said, the learnings from our subconscious mind that is guiding us and speaking to us, right? But again, that voice is that unspoken voice, right? That unheard voice that you don't hear out loud, but just is there. That to me is, like I said, that's the voice of God or my higher power that is trying to guide me. Now, whether or not I always pay attention to it, right? And can it be taught? I don't think it can be taught because I think it's inherent to all people. Can we be taught to hear it, though, and act on it? I don't know if we can even be taught to do that because that takes surrender and faith, right? And so, yeah, I believe it has been trained out of us to a degree when we're children, that when a child says to their parent, mom or dad, this doesn't, for whatever reason, this doesn't feel good to me. This doesn't feel right. And the parents are like, squash that, right? Now, and I mean, there's appropriate at times when you have to move through your fears in order to grow, but there are times when it's important for us to recognize what kind of fear, what is this a legitimate thing for this mind at this age to be saying, I don't feel safe doing this. This isn't appropriate for me, right? Especially when it comes to interacting with the energy of another human being, especially someone who holds power over that child. That's when I think that we really need to pay attention to a child's intuition, that they say, I don't feel safe around this person. Right. That's a voice that needs to be respected and it needs to be investigated when it comes to children. I think that is, and I think that's where a lot of that is trained out of us, because of course it's really amazing when you look at the intuitive nature of children, because if you are an energy practitioner out there and you're listening, like Nicole and I both understand, when we are running energy, doing whatever you want to call it, however you want to pronounce what it is that you do when you work with energy, I know that when I'm watching a kid, and this was pointed out to me by our friend Karen Bosque, who was on the show a few weeks ago, right? Because she's the person who trained me in healing touch. And, if you watch a child as they feel sick, what do they say when they feel sick? They put their hands over their tummy, right? And they'll usually layer their hands one on top of the other. Right. So we've got energy, we've got male, female energy. And if you notice the way that they do it naturally, children will usually put their dominant hand, which their gender hand, I'll say, always on top of the other. Right. So girls will generally, if you watch a kid, will have their left hand on top of their right hand over their tummy when they don't feel well. And boys will be the opposite way, and they'll be almost like kind of rubbing, right? Which is, what are they doing? They're running energy. They're intuitively running energy on their systems, but then they're told that we're not taught that, right? And so they're intuitively healers. We're all natural healers like this. So whether or not it's squashed out of us is the question, I believe.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe intuition, this, alongside creativity is kind of squandered out of us at a young age. Again, a bit of a generalization, but yeah, there's too many do's and don'ts, within our society, and especially growing up, and too many parameters that we are expected to live within according to society's requirements and society's setup. So you need to behave in a certain way in this particular situation, and if you feel X or Y, it doesn't fit with that particular situation, so you need to get rid of that. So intuition, isn't just about warning against something unhelpful, or something that could be potentially dangerous. Intuition is also about kind of telling you, oh, you need to go there, or you need to do that, or something like that for your benefit, right? When you get those kind of divine downloads, or you get those amazing ideas that you don't know where they've come from. How many times have you had this kind of divine inspiration where you've just sat down and started, putting together some ideas, or, just produced something out of seemingly nowhere, all of this information that's just sort of come to you in a sense.
This morning.
Well, there you go. But how many times over the course of your life? I think the question here really is whether you choose to listen to that and do something with it, right, or whether you choose to ignore it, brush it off, and say, oh, no, that's just nothing, or I don't have the time to pay attention to that right now. I'm just going to forget about that and move on. And that's really where the training, I think, comes in, where you can train yourself to pay attention to those little kind of voices, words, images, excuse me, whatever shape or however it decides to present itself to you. It's what you choose to do with that, whether you give it the space and the time to develop it and work on it. I mean, it was Paul McCartney said that he dreamt yesterday. It came to him in a dream, and then he woke up and wrote the song, right? Intuition, a gift from God. He's got a musical brain. He's a poet, an artist. There's all of these different elements that come together to offer us those kinds of, those bits of information. It then depends on us what we do with it or what we don't do with it.
Exactly. That's what I was saying, that just this morning, right? I mean, before we were on the podcast, we were talking a bit about what I would call a divine inspiration for this new project that I'm working on, for this chakra clearing hypnosis MP3, and it just, where that came from, I don't know. I wouldn't think about it yesterday, but this morning it hit me, and it all fell exactly into place. I know exactly what it's going to sound like. I've gotten most of it done already, and that is, to already have written like 5 pages in less than 4 hours. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's exciting, and it feels good when that comes out of you, right? When it's like, yeah, I'm here with it, man. Just keep it coming. I don't know where it's coming from, but keep it coming. I'm good with this. This looks good.
Yeah. I mean, how many times has it happened to you? I know it's happened to me so many times, where I know I've heard the intuition say to me, don't do that. And then you go and do it anyway, because the logical brain gets involved. Like, no, it's a really good idea. And then the other side's going, no, don't do that. no kind of logical explanation as to why you shouldn't do it. We've talked about this 1,000 times. Clients, sometimes there's just that potential client where your gut, that voice, whatever it is, saying, nope, don't take that person on. And then your other mind is going, oh no, but whatever, and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, yeah. And then that voice comes back like, you see, I told you so. You're like, yeah, you
being
did.
able to have that discernment, right? Of
Yeah.
knowing and this is the interesting thing for me recently, is recognizing the difference between the intuitive voice that is there to guide me towards my higher purpose and the voice of fear that can imitate itself as intuition.
Right.
Right. It can fear is a really good disguiser and pretender of one thing when it's something different. Right. And I've just, another thing you and I were talking about, I had followed the wrong path for a while, the wrong band leader, confusing one for the other. Right.
Right.
And it's an easy thing to do, depending upon the environment and the current situations that you're in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's important that we remain vigilant to how we are expressing, or how that intuition is expressing itself through us.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that we were talking about before as well. I mentioned to you, I've always, from a young age, I remember as a kid naturally being drawn to placing my hands on people and massaging, and that healing touch that we have as children. I remember very much growing up with that sense, but it wasn't until my kind of mid-20s, I think, that I actually started doing some training in Reiki and massage and things. And I've often found, I think I've always found really, that once I enter into the right brain world of training and technique and the science, if you like, behind things, the intuition falls, it kind of it disappears in a way, because you're so right brain focused on what you're doing, the learning and the technique, and having to think about, oh, I'm moving my fingers this way, or I need to go in this direction, or what muscle is that, or what joint is that. And when you're really kind of, for me anyway, I find that when I'm really in that space of learning and trying to follow a technique, my intuition sort of just goes on holiday. It's like, oh, well, you don't need me. You're following the system.
But yeah, it has to do that for a while in order for that other part to be able to do its piece and have the understanding of the theory of it, I believe, right? And then the gift comes in the marrying of the two.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I find that takes time to come. It's almost like, I think it's a bit of a confidence thing. Once you feel that you understand and you feel confident in the technique side of things, then you almost invite your intuition back into play, to play around with that technique. So, I mean, I've learned so many different massage techniques. I don't know that I follow any of them to the way that they were taught to me.
And isn't that so funny? You say that, because I think right back to massage school, we had to do those 3 massages every single week through school. We had to do 3 massages and write them up and turn them in. And I remember we were always learning, like you said, these techniques, and this is the 4-stroke whatever, blah blah blah, and this is the effleurage stroke that you use for this part of the body, and I was always like, okay, that's always great. And then when it came time to do the massage, I would just do a massage.
Yeah.
And they always loved it, and so I never thought more beyond that. Yeah. As long as I could pass the test, I was like, who cares for that part of it? As long as I could do that part. The important part was, how do they feel for me, right? But you're right. It took time to be able to blend all of that, right? And I still miss doing that work sometimes.
I do too.
I really do. I was watching a chair massage go on the other day at the Soul Spa that I'm at every Sunday now. And I just thought, oh God, I love doing chair massages. And I was like, oh, you know what? I look at my hands and I'm like, maybe I don't. Maybe it would be nice to do 1 or 2, but That's it. Because it is beautiful work. It is really
absolutely.
Talk about artistry, I believe. I mean, somebody can give you a technical massage, but because they're not using their intuition and following that internal guidance system that tells them where to move and how to move, it's not the same. It's not the same as someone who just goes in and does it and feels it.
Yeah. I think, look, we live in a world where we're so obsessed with certifications and qualifications and pieces of paper on our wall. And, if you haven't got the piece of paper, it means that you don't exist in that particular field or that particular world. And I think we almost forget about just natural instinct, intuition.
Where did all this shit come from to begin with?
Right. It's, I don't know, living in tribal times, it's not like we needed a piece of paper to say that we could do whatever it is that we needed to do.
Just like being a teacher. I'm sorry. There are people out there who have certificates to teach, but shouldn't be teaching. And there are people
that have certificates in everything that shouldn't be doing.
Right. Well, I'm saying there are people out there that would be phenomenal teachers, but they can't because they don't hold the certificate, right? But they've got a wealth of knowledge and understanding and gifts that they could share. But then again, that comes down to what do we find important as far as knowledge and education goes? Right.
What do we value? Exactly. I've talked about this before. There's a Brazilian businessman called Ricardo Semler, and I think I don't know if he's retired from the business now. He's got a number of TED Talks. He's one of my idols. I absolutely adore this man. And he is the founder of a group of schools called Lumiere. And the idea behind them, he's consulted and worked with education specialists from all over the world, really it's really progressive, really advanced. And they have what's called a mosaic curriculum. So it may be that you find a 4-year-old in the same class as an 11-year-old because they're both really interested in maths and they both have the same level of understanding of maths at that particular time in their development. So they can jump around the curriculum. That's why it's called a mosaic, right? They can jump around the curriculum
depending
as they're
upon
developing.
Where they are.
Exactly.
That's really cool. And there's no judgment about who the ages are with anything or you're stupid, you're not stupid, I'm smart, you're not. That is now that's equality.
Absolutely. And not only that, they also bring in, so anybody can be a teacher, if you like. So they bring in people, it may be that they were an engineer, but they love playing the violin. So they can come in and teach the violin, to the kids. And they draw on the, kind of retired citizens to come in and teach their passions and the things that they love. So you don't need to have necessarily a certificate in history. Maybe you just love history. Right. And you're so passionate about history that you want to share that.
And isn't that what happened? Why teachers got into teaching to begin with? Right.
Yeah.
Is that they get to teach their passions instead of these. Yeah. At any rate, we've kind of gotten off track a little bit, but
no, absolutely. I mean, when I first started teaching, I loved teaching English. I loved it. Loved teaching language, loved helping people communicate in a different language. It was so much fun. And it was just amazing helping people achieve things that were really important to them. And then after a few years, Cambridge took over the world. And, Cambridge English exams then just became the objective. It then became in Spain that you couldn't graduate from university unless you had a certain level in a foreign language. And that became, more or less mostly English. So I had students that were brilliant in their field, but couldn't graduate because they weren't very good at English. And I was just like, this is nuts. Like this is not fun anymore. Where's the love for the language? Where's the love for learning? Where's the joy and the fun that comes and the want? I'm here because it's fun and I want to learn rather than shit, I have to be here another year because I'm being forced to learn this thing that just doesn't work for me.
Right. That I will never, ever have as part of my life outside of this environment. And yet it's going to be forced upon me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That does suck the enjoyment out of it for sure.
It does. It certainly kills the motivation.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to recognize yourself and step out of that and into something that was more fulfilling for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me personally, when I first trained in hypnosis, my first training, I just got it. Like,
Yeah.
I just got it.
Yeah.
Do you know, there was never for me, yeah, it was never, I don't know, it wasn't something that I needed to work out, that I needed to, I just got it immediately. Right. And I just picked it up and I was just like, okay, the first time that I practiced, I was like, I sort of held off a few days and then I was like, no, screw it. I'm just going to go and do it. And then I grabbed hold of a few of my friends. And I think my first time practicing, I was practicing in Spanish. I was learning in English. So I had to translate that and practice in Spanish. But then I was just like, you just let it roll off. Do you know what I mean? Just let it roll off, and it comes. And through the repetition of learning certain things, through my own intuition and understanding of what I was trying to achieve, it just came very, very naturally to me. And that's been, as much as I've learned lots of different techniques. And again, it comes back to when you're learning a technique, you're very right brain, very kind of logical and analytical and understanding the technique, but then using it in your own way and bringing your own self and marrying the two sides of the brain, right? The left and the right. Some people say the left and the right brain thing is actually a fallacy, but I'm going to go with it.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing about that. There are people who believe all sorts of stuff. Right? Yeah. There are people who don't believe in the chakra system. There are people who don't believe in whatever, right? There are people who do believe in this and who believe in fairies and little woodland elves, and other people who don't believe in little woodland elves. I'm just going to honor them all. You know, it's good. Why not? If you have little woodland elves running about your yard, I'm happy for you.
I would be ecstatic.
I would be too. Feed them. Treat them well.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I honor your path. I wish I could see them.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, but I believe that, well, you know, I have worked with people, students, and helped them learn how to develop their intuition. Because that is something that you can, like, I agree with you 100%. You said earlier that we can develop it, work on it, encourage it, intensify it, right? And I believe that as healers, with me, and I can only talk about myself, but I think it's my responsibility to learn how to develop it deeper and deeper and more consciously. Because is it not my... people, when people come to me, I believe, for any kind of change, I think it's my job, it's my gift, I think, to be able to recognize the things in them that they are not able to see yet, right? And then be able to create the right kind of light for them to see it. You know, I think that intuition has a huge part to do with that. And when we start to develop it, I mean, for those out there who want to learn to develop it, I'll tell you, the best way to do it is to find a friend to work with, have them know somebody, really know somebody that you don't know. They provide you with a name and a birth date. And you sit with that name and your birth date, and you just check out, or you check in rather, with yourself, and you just sit in quiet contemplation and meditation for 15, 20 minutes, and you send that out to the world, that name and that birth date, and you just focus on that. And then you write down everything that you are experiencing in your mind, body, and spirit at that time. Right. And then as you talk to that other person, you check in. What are the truths that I was able to feel and experience in this time. And then you can start to learn and focus where your direction is coming from and how to develop that even further. It sounds simple, but it really is.
Yeah. I've done in group coaching sessions that I've done with people that have never met each other before, had them sit in front of a stranger and, take a minute to just really look into each other's eyes, which is much harder than it seems.
Gazing is very difficult
really
for people.
Look into each other's eyes and then go away and write down what they've learned about that person, what they think they know about that person, they've discovered about that person. It's such a powerful exercise and amazing how true it is, the things that people discover just by sitting in silence and looking at each other. In
some group exercises that I've done before, it has been interesting. I'll take couples that have come to an exercise together and something like that, and I won't let them work together. Right. I will usually mix up according to how I see their energies, right? How I'm experiencing their energies. That's who I'll place, right? Because I want to place certain combinations together. People that I can fear are really, really blocking and they're fearful to let people see who they really are. I want to put those two people together because those two people are going to have one of the most profound experiences in both of their lives. And it's cool to have them gazing like that for 5-10 minutes. And after the first 3 or 4 minutes, after the first kind of giggling goes away, because at first with some people, there's a little bit of giggling because there's nervousness. There's this quality of this is really uncomfortable to look directly into somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
And it's so there's some giggling at first, oftentimes I've recognized, and then it gets real serious. And it gets real deep, real quick. And it's not very often that I haven't, when I've ran that exercise, haven't had at least 2 or 3 people or more, or groups of people in tears. Because there have been revelations that they never thought that they were going to expose of themselves just through gazing.
And it's like you're being seen for many people for the very first time, right? You're really being seen and you're really seeing somebody else.
Yeah. I love to do that. I love to do it. For me, I'm very selective, which I need to be less selective. I mean, I think it's important, but sometimes, you can't only choose. You can't always have the good ones. Sometimes you gotta. Anyway, on that note, that was a good conversation today, I believe, on intuition and the different aspects of it, and maybe how we can develop it and use it more to help guide our lives and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for the conversation as always. And I'm really excited. We've got a very cool guest coming up next week. So we'll leave it here for now and we'll see you again in a week's time. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Hypnotic Healers Podcast. Don't forget to leave us a review and follow us on Facebook. You can also join our mailing list at hypnotichealers.com.